Very good evening to you. The Serbian war crime suspect Ratko Mladic has appeared before a court in Belgrade this evening within hours of his arrest in the north of the country after 16 years on the run. Moves to extradite Mladic to The Hague are currently underway. He's accused of presiding over the slaughter of 8,000 Bosnian Muslim men and boys in Srebrenica in 1995. Our correspondent Alex Rossi reports.
As a military commander, Ratko Mladic was feared for his ruthlessness. But the man who perpetrated the worst crimes against humanity on the continent since the Second World War is now in custody, awaiting extradition to The Hague. Mladic had been on the run for 16 years, and the Serbian government was under pressure to hand him over to face war crimes charges.
Today we arrested Ratko Mladic. Extradition process is underway. This is the result of full cooperation of Serbia with the Hague Tribunal. Today we closed one chapter of our recent history that will bring us one step closer to full reconciliation in the region.
Along with the Bosnian Serb leader Radovan Karadzic, who was caught in 2008, Ratko Mladic waged a campaign of ethnic cleansing against Bosnia's Muslim population. His name is indelibly associated with this, the siege of Sarajevo. Civilians were randomly shot and shelled by his forces over a 4-year period. The massacre at Srebrenica was also carried out under his command. 8,000 men and boys exterminated. It was an act of genocide.
We know already that generals who served under his command have been tried and are now in prison for crimes which he was closely associated with. So I don't think we need to go through a pretense. This man is guilty and will serve sentences, and the question only is what exact crimes he's accused of and found guilty of.
But the capture has been a long time coming, and for families of Mladic's victims, it's resurrected the bitterness of a dark period in Europe's history.
He is a monster and criminal who finally has to go to The Hague and stand trial for his crimes.
For all those years, this monster was hidden by Serbia, and they knew where he was. Now they are handing him over to justice, but I'm afraid of another trial without a verdict, as has happened before.
Mladic's arrest has been welcomed by leaders here at the G8. It will also bolster Serbia's candidacy for the European Union. His capture was a precondition of membership. Now, many European states have criticised Belgrade in the past for not doing enough to bring Mladic to account.
I hope this is the last piece of the very difficult Bosnian jigsaw that's now in place. All that effort, that blood and treasure that was expended to get Bosnia from the chaos it was in into some sort of stability, without Mladic's being subject to the due process of law, it was incomplete. And I hope now it is complete.
There are, though, still many questions about why it's taken so long to catch the man who was known as the Butcher of Bosnia. How did he manage to stay hidden? And how much help was he given from the Serbian security services? Alex Rossi, Sky News, Deauville.
Well, Sky's Foreign Affairs editor Tim Marshall is in Belgrade for us tonight. He joins us on the phone. Tim, a man on the run for 16 years and very swiftly on his way to The Hague, it seems.
I think it'll take up to a week to do all the paperwork, and also the complicating factor, his lawyers just come out and spoken to us. His client, who says he's not very well, and from the look of him in the pictures, I think you can concur with that. I mean, I barely recognise him. He's a shriveled, shrunken man. One of his arms does not appear to be working properly, and they've halted proceedings so the doctor can treat him. They will return to proceedings tomorrow morning. So I think, A, there's going to probably be a plea that he's too ill to travel down to the court for that to decide that. Assuming he does go within about a week, then there'll be a very, very lengthy trial The Hague, where he can answer the charges against him, which he will undoubtedly say, no, he was fighting a just war on behalf of the Bosnian Serb population.
What's been the reaction as well, Tim, tonight where you are? Is there an appetite for this arrest in Serbia?
I think there is. There's always been two Serbias or several Serbias. And when Milosevic was overthrown, which is part of the process that led us here today, there was a country absolutely split down the middle. By the time Karadzic was arrested in 2008, what you saw was the last spasms of the ultra-nationalists. This is a test now. The government felt confident enough to hand him over. They now feel confident enough to arrest and hand Mladic over. There may be some trouble, but I really think the country's moved on. And a friend of mine I bumped into a few hours ago. He said it's been weird all day. It's like we all think a weight has been lifted off our shoulders. And I think what he means by that is that they all know that they can't really move on until the question of Srebrenica has been answered. And they can't really move on and integrate fully into Europe without this event happening. And I think there's almost a sense of relief. Now, of course, there are the ultranationalists who say the whole thing charges against them are wrong. They're not proven, and obviously we do have to wait for a court of law to put the case against him and him to answer it. But there's what I pick up is almost a sense of relief.
Tim Marshall in Belgrade, thank you very much indeed. Well, our political correspondent Glenn Glaser is live in Deauville, where world leaders are gathering for the G8 summit right now. And Glenn, immense pressure from Europe to hunt this man down and make this arrest. What's the political reaction been?
It's been delight, frankly. I interviewed David Cameron a couple of hours ago about the arrest of Mladic, and he was very passionate about the fact that this man is responsible for the massacre in Srebrenica and for what happened in Sarajevo. And those of us who are old enough to remember it and covered that war well remember not just the shelling of civilians in Sarajevo, which seemed relentless, but also the snipers whose job was simply to murder civilians in cold blood. This man has felt throughout Europe to have a huge case to answer, and that's taken a very long time, 16 years, to bring him to justice. But David Cameron makes the point as well, just looking around the world today, that no matter how long it takes, one day, no matter where you hide, you will have to face the music. And I think that's a clear message to Gaddafi and possibly to others, maybe even to Syria's President Assad. But European leaders here, and indeed the Americans and Canadians and others, welcoming the arrest at last of Mladic. And as you were hearing in that report a little earlier, it does clear the way as well for Serbia to begin the process of entry into the European Union. Certainly one big hurdle to that process of entry has now been overcome, because until Mladic was handed over, Serbia was certainly not going to be considered for membership of the European Union.
Glenn Glaser, thanks very much indeed. Well, we were hearing a short time ago from Tim Marshall in Belgrade that there were reports that Ratko Mladic was suffering from ill health. He certainly looked very frail on those pictures we received from Serbian state TV tonight. Well, we were hearing a short time ago through the Reuters news agency that the court had halted questioning now of Mladic because of his poor health. But we understand now that that questioning will now resume tomorrow. That's according to the Deputy War Crimes Prosecutor. So that questioning of Ratko Mladic in that special Belgrade courtroom tonight has ceased because of his ill health, but it will resume again tomorrow. Well, as far as international reaction to that arrest is concerned, the Foreign Secretary here in the UK, William Hague, said that it should be a lesson to the Libyan leader, Colonel Gaddafi.
It is a warning to members of that regime, and clearly the International Criminal Court has also requested 3 arrest warrants against the Libyan regime. These things do not get forgotten. For any members of that regime who are contemplating anything that makes them complicit in war crimes or crimes against humanity, this does carry an important lesson for them.
Well, Sky's Foreign Affairs correspondent Lisa Holland is in Tripoli, where she's reporting under the supervision of the Libyan authorities. And Lisa, is today's arrest of Ratko Mladic and his indictment to the War Crimes Tribunal in The Hague likely to have any bearing on Colonel Gaddafi's consideration of events in his own country?
I don't think it will change his stance at the moment. He and his son Saif al-Islam, who incidentally, of course, were both named by the International Criminal Courts just a couple of weeks ago as two of three characters who they are seeking arrest warrants for. We're unlikely to get any kind of reaction from them at all. They're saying very little these days, but I think that the point is, as far as the Foreign Secretary William Hague is concerned, that he will hope the fact that Ratko Mladic has been hunted down 16 years they've been looking for him, that it will send a message to other people within the regime here who may be reconsidering their loyalties towards the Gaddafi regime. The message, of course, from William Hague and others is that in the end, the people who are wanted by international justice seekers ultimately are found, and that's the message that they want to get across to the Gaddafi regime.
Lisa Holland in Tripoli, thanks very much indeed.